And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Apptrepreneur Show. I am your host, Kevin, the Apptrepreneur. Thank you for joining us this week as we get together every week to discuss tech, pop culture, and a little bit of life in between. As always, I am your host, Kevin, the Apptrepreneur. This is our weekly little get-together, and we have, as always, a special guest with us to kind of steer the ship in the conversational direction. And that guest this week is Jose, the Driver Man. Welcome, Driver Man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Yes, it's always good to be here. Although, I have to say, the last time we talked, it wasn't under great... Well, we talked... Our last two conversations were really interesting. The first time we talked about Prop 22, where we shared disagreements over what we felt about that now. Interesting. It would be interesting if you have, because you were pro Prop 22. You wanted to remain the flexibility and stuff, and you didn't see the, let's say, the employment protections that Prop 22, that voting no on Prop 22, I should say, would have offered as being worth it to give up the freedoms and maybe even potentially not have a job because you wanted to do it as a side hustle still. You didn't want to do it as a main job. And then afterwards, you got suspended by DoorDash. And so I thought that would be first an interesting thing to find out what happened. And then maybe because we've both kind of been in this boat, what's it like to be suspended from DoorDash and what goes through your head and through your heart, really, when you get that email? So, why don't you first start by telling what you believe happened, and we'll go from there.
Well, I believe it, and I believe it because it's accurate. It's basically what happened was I was not careful enough. I made the mistake of not being cautious enough as far as multi-apping. So I would always do Grubhub and DoorDash at the same time. And I don't know, somehow they kind of figured it out. I guess I wasn't being strict enough with maybe keeping it with deliveries that were going in exactly the same direction as far as drop-offs, and maybe restaurants that potentially did not take forever on the Grubhub side, because that does happen. Sometimes you'll take an order on one app, and you've already accepted one on the other, you've picked it up, and then the second restaurant takes forever. Maybe it's Indian food, maybe it's sushi, could be something like that. So it might have been partially because of that. Or then also, them seeing where I'm going, like, hey, the customer's place is in this direction. Why are you going north 2 miles before you head that direction? It could have been a combination of the two, but basically they figured out that I was multi-apping. I didn't do it cleverly enough, let's say, and they caught me. Basically they said that they didn't say that it was because of multi-apping. What they stated was that extreme lateness. They said, we are deactivating you due to extreme lateness as far as your drop-offs, and that was due to the a combination of the aforementioned things. So that's what it was. It was just showing up, being too late, and because they're very with the little timer, you must, pick up by this time. You must drop off at this time. Very, very Nazi-ish.
So basically, you could not outthink the algorithm.
I guess not. I mean, honestly, I wasn't really trying. I never had before. I mean, I've been multi-apping with those two since like mid, 2019. And it was never a problem. I would always rock both and make money with both. And, sometimes they'd be, really far apart from each other. Sometimes they'd be really close to each other. And I would just, I never got like any kind of an issue or warning from DoorDash. Hey, you're taking too long, or Grubhub saying, hey, you're taking too long, we got a complaint, or anything like that. I never got any, complaints from either of the companies as far as, showing up, late or not being quick enough. It never seemed to be an issue because, neither of them, at least at that time, seemed to be that strict as far as, well, at least enforcing. I mean, I'm sure they both have their policy, but
right.
Neither of them really like, like hardcore about like sending me warnings. Hey buddy, hey, what are you doing? You need to, you need to be on time. You're supposed to, do by this time. I didn't receive any, kind of, issues or messages from them. And so, yeah, it was really just kind of a big surprise all of a sudden. Oh, well, why didn't you, tell me, give me some kind of a message or warning to begin with, like, hey, Jose, we noticed, you're showing up late, you're supposed to be on time. But yeah, I didn't receive any kind of a warning. It was just boom, kind of a one day I just received that email. I was like, what? Is this some kind of mistake? Nope.
No. Well, and it's funny because I don't know if anyone listening or watching this remembers. I have actually been deactivated from DoorDash twice. The first time I was deactivated, I think what happened was that I went to a restaurant that they had ordered food from, and keep in mind this is way back then. They don't have their partners at the time. Everything is on the red card. Everything. And we are doing well. I am doing well, Jordan. Thank you. And I get sent to this place that is not open. It's not even that they're not open. There's no business there. And that's the address. And I tried telling Dasher support that there is no address there. And they say, well, look, can you please pick up the food anyway? The customer really wants it. And it's like, yeah, there's no restaurant here. This order's canceled. There's nothing for me to pick up. And next day, I was deactivated. Now, back then, you could make an anti-DoorDash video and actually get them to call you, and they reactivated me, made me an elite dasher, and things were good for another several months. That was when I was a good little DoorDash channel. Now, the second time I got deactivated, I went to a restaurant, and they said their system wasn't working, and I said, okay, well, I've got the order right here. Maybe you can make it, and I could buy it. And they're like, no, we can't do it. We're way too busy. I'm like, but the food was ordered, and the guy's like, hey, I'm not going to let a cracker tell me how to run my business. And it was like, okay, I don't really want to do this one anymore. So, yes, racism exists on all sides, folks. So I actually even made a video about that, complained to DoorDash. Again, they say, now look, can you please pick up the food? And it's like, you don't understand. They are not going to serve me. They don't want to serve me for whatever reason. And then 2 days later, that time I did get an email. The first time I didn't even get an email, but the second time I got the email, it was like, thanks for your time, but no thanks. So I definitely have experiences. Now, I agree. I think that they should give you a heads up. I think there should be a little bit of a warning system, but even though we are, independent contractors, we're employees, and they will fire you over any misgivings they feel has happened. Now, for me, both times it was incredibly frustrating because I did not get any heads up. And even though they reached out to me after I made a YouTube video, obviously by that point, the second time they had gotten just big enough where that was not an issue. So I don't know. How did it feel to just be deactivated and not even given a warning? Like, does that color your opinion of the company a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I thought it was pretty lame. Honestly, I thought it was really lame. I kind of, at the beginning, I assumed, no, this must be a mistake, because, why would they just suddenly do that? So I kind of sent just like a casual email to support and said, hey, I was trying to log on this weekend and make some money. I was looking forward to, I think it was like a holiday weekend, like some, Labor Day weekend or something like that. Some, Thanksgiving weekend, I don't know, something like that. And so I said, hey, I was looking forward to, making some money this weekend. I was getting ready to log on, and it kept on saying, hey, you can't log on. Your account has been deactivated. And so I said, something's going on. Looks like some kind of a mistake. What's going on? Can you help clear this up? I was just about to make some money. And they messaged back to me and they said, please refer back to, any emails you may have received from DoorDash as far as your account being deactivated. And so I was like, okay, maybe this is a little more serious. But I mean, really? Because I said, hey, I've never, committed fraud or stolen food. So this must be a mistake, because I really haven't. I've never done any of that. And
Oh,
so,
you're using the competitor's app, though. They consider that fraud in their eyes. At the same time
yeah,
that you were using their app.
yeah. I never thought of this. See, fraud is like, for me, like I thought fraud would be, what would I consider fraud? Something where you're, getting extra money, or you're manipulating the system to make extra money and increase the, I don't know, the bonus, or steal a bonus or something like that. Or, add some extra, delivery hours or time or something like that. And then stealing food is obviously, pretty self-explanatory.
Right.
But yeah, I would say the other, what you said, I guess they consider fraud. For me, that would just be like, maybe a violation of terms, or like misbehaving, some insubordinates. But I don't consider that fraud, because for me, fraud, that word seems to have more of like a really like criminal connotation, and I'm not really
Oh, it
like
is
breaking
criminal
any.
from their perspective. From their perspective, it's criminal. In
Yes,
fact, I have even been told that Uber now limits how many times you can use a referral code. Like, I think it's like capped at like $2,000 worth of referrals you can get or something, because anything above that they consider fraud. Which it's like, no, I'm giving out to friends. I'm giving them out to my 16.7 thousand friends on the internet who like me and they like what I do. So, but they don't see it that way anymore. So, I mean, the one thing I know you were disappointed in, and hindsight being 2020, you were definitely big enough that I'm a little disappointed. Like, you did not get any support from the UberTuber community. Like, hey, support Driver Man. He got deactivated from DoorDash. But I think the reason it didn't happen is because, frankly, by the time you got deactivated, I think the UberTuber community had pretty much moved on at that point. I mean, Mark was no longer Uber Hints for a while. Randy had long since packed up. Cecily's not doing it anymore. I was kind of like, I want to do something other than Uber topics all day. Although I was, in all fairness, was not made aware. Our buddy in Chicago, he got deactivated from Uber. He's not talking about Uber anymore. I don't know what's going on with Uber in Tampa these days. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but I think the community I think we got to the point where the Uber community ceased to be a thing at that point. And it's not a thing anymore. And I know people say that, well, it's got to still be a thing. No, it's not. I'm sorry to say it's not. I've seen the numbers. The number, it's like a big Uber story could potentially get hundreds of thousands of views on all of our channels. Now a major event happens and I do a video and I think it gets like 2,000 views at most. I think it's just, and we should have seen it coming a while ago when we were doing it, and we were talking about stories like Uber can only retain 3% of its drivers on a yearly basis. At some point, this was going to affect the UberTuber community, and what better time than when the pandemic basically made everyone rethink their lives. So I think that's what happened, but sorry we didn't support you and make videos and say, yeah, we feel really bad for you. Because I do. I even though I think people are better off getting as far away from these companies as they possibly can, it doesn't feel good when it happens.
Sure. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, part of it could have been that, and then the other part is like, I'm not that big of a channel. I've got like 3,000 subscribers. I don't even have 10,000. So I mean, I'm not super popular, or was at that time, or am at this time either. And so it could have been, part of, maybe a combination of the two things, like part of like maybe the community wasn't as strong and together as it was before, and the fact that I'm not somebody that has 15,000 subscribers. Could have been a combination too, but it's okay.
Probably.
And honestly, I'm really over the whole being deactivated. It doesn't really like bother me anymore. We could get a little more into it and say that it's actually kind of a good thing. Really, the app really just annoyed me, and I I don't really miss it. The annoying sounds that the app made anyway. So maybe it was a good thing.
Yeah. So, yep. I will say on the final note about the community thing, I'm not going to name names because even though there is essentially no community anymore, but I do want to confirm a suspicion many people had. When someone from Chicago was deactivated, everybody made videos about how they felt bad for him. Like, well, we didn't like him, but he had every right to drive for Uber, and they wish their public support. I just want to say, now that it's been a little while, bullshit. Every single person was high-fiving one another that guy got deactivated. And I even talked to one. He was one of the biggest ones, and I'm like, so do you feel bad he got deactivated? He's like, oh no, that guy's an a-hole. He deserved to be deactivated. I'm like, you're going to make a video supporting him though? Yeah, because it's kind of a douche thing to do, to make a video. So, things aren't always what they seem, folks. I don't want to name names and get anyone particularly in trouble, but yeah, behind the scenes drama. Anyway, I'm glad you're over it. I'm glad you have moved on to greener pastures. And you know what? Let's start by talking about some topics, some news topics of the day. And we're actually going to start with one that you brought up. And I think it's one that everyone's looking forward to because I can see in the chat, AMC stock. Oh boy, AMC stock. Oh, something. Sorry. So yeah, folks, AMC stock is skyrocketing, to be blunt. It's gone up like some 1,200,000% or something like that. And people are kind of going like, well, what on earth is going on? And for those of you who are not aware what's going on, what is going on right now is it's a short squeeze. And a short squeeze is basically you know how you have boycotts and pro-cots? In the stock world, a short squeeze is basically a pro-cot. And people who are buying the stock are not buying the stock because they necessarily think this company is valuable or that it has a bright future ahead of it, although I do think it does have a future myself. They're buying it because they want to hurt people who are shorting the AMC stock in hopes that they will make money from it failing. Now, some people are still a little murky on what shorting a stock actually is. So let's use an example with James Cameron's Avatar. Let's pretend this is a stock for a second, folks. So the principle, let's say there's a situation where this is not my copy of Avatar. Let's say this is your copy of Avatar. And I say, hey, can I borrow that copy of Avatar for a year? And you're like, sure, you can borrow Avatar for a year. So I have Avatar now, but I'm not borrowing Avatar to watch Avatar. I'm buying Avatar to sell Avatar. This thing sells for $30. So I sell it for $30. So Avatar sold. Year goes by and you come back. It's like, hey, I want Avatar back. So it's like, okay, but I sold Avatar already. So I've got to rebuy Avatar. However, it has now been 1 year since I borrowed Avatar. It's not worth $30 anymore. Now I can get Avatar for $10 at Best Buy. So I go and I buy Avatar. I give Avatar back to you. And in that process, I have made $20 because you let me borrow it. I sold it at $30. And when you wanted it back, it was cheaper. So I bought it at $10, pocketed the difference. That's short selling in a nutshell. You are buying stocks, selling them immediately, and you sell them with the hope that Avatar, or in this case AMC, will be worth less money when it comes time to give those shares back, and you will repurchase them at a lower price, pocket the difference. That is short selling in a nutshell. Well, AMC is reportedly the most shorted company in the world right now. Like there are more companies and people betting that AMC will lose than people who are actually buying stocks thinking it's a good investment. Well, there is a Redditor group called Wall Street Bets, and what they've kind of made it their mission is they want to pay attention to the hedge funds and what companies they are shorting, because they think it's despicable that these hedge funds basically make multi-million, sometimes billion-dollar gambles in hopes that a company will fail, and then they will, leak the internet and trades with articles about why this company is not sustainable, why it's a bad investment, invest your money somewhere else, all in the hopes of driving the stock price lower because they gain a lot of money when they do that. Well, the Redditors decided they're just simply not going to have that. And so they are buying AMC stocks, and they are buying it to the tune where, actually, before I even tell you this, how much money do you think the companies who are shorting the stocks are set to lose at this moment in time?
I would bet millions. If
Millions.
Not billions. I mean, these are major hedge funds, excuse me, not head funds, hedge funds. And I mean, these companies, that's what they do, is they buy hundreds of thousands of shares worth millions, billions of dollars, and try to, become more wealthy than they already are, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The Redditors have basically brought AMC to a point where if the stocks were due today, and they're not, the short squeeze has not ended. Heck, I think it's just begun. They have done this to the tune of a $1.3 billion loss for the companies that are shorting AMC. So, yeah. So this is a big one. So anyway, that's what's going on. And, Jim Cramer was on TV, and he was kind of basically giving the hedge funds kind of a talking down to and saying, look, here's the thing. You tried to short AMC before. It didn't work. The Redditors bought up the stock and you lost millions of dollars. Well, stock went back down because here's the thing. I have to put it all out there, folks. Just because AMC is $33 this morning doesn't mean it's going to be $33 on Tuesday. These things always tend to come down once the short squeeze is done. But they decided to try to short it again. And, well, now AMC might very well be the next GameStop. Like, boy, can you imagine if AMC stock ends up crossing the $100 a share mark? That would be absolutely nuts. And Cramer was wondering, like, why are they doing this? Like, they're doing the same stupid thing and expecting a different result when people buying the AMC stock are not buying it on fundamentals like whether or not they're profitable, whether or not they've got a long future, whether or not there's a business model, And these are, by the way, things you should be thinking about when you buy stocks. Want to point that out and make that abundantly clear. But they're not doing it that way. They are doing it because, hey, they want to hurt these hedge funds. And look, for those of us who have AMC stock, it's a wonderful surprise. It's a great surprise. But yeah, now the question remains, how high can it go and for how long? Because, GameStop got as high as $330 a share. But it never did go back down to $13 a share. It plateaued at about $125, and now even that's back on the rise again. So first of all, Driver, what do you think about all of this? And what do you think AMC is ultimately going to wind up at?
I think, for anybody that has the AMC stock that has been buying, good for them. I own some myself. I know you do. So, I mean, this, I guess, let's just call it for what it is. It's market manipulation. It's what it is. And yes, it's a real thing and it does exist. In a certain way, the system is rigged, at least to a certain extent, and it can be more rigged / manipulated, if you get enough people involved. A stock, when it's hot and a stock is popular and a lot of people are buying it, the price goes up. When a lot of people start selling it, the price goes down. That's a big motivator for the price. There are, of course, other factors, like you mentioned, like earnings reports. They do their quarterly earnings reports, and if they have a really good beat, if they're expecting a certain amount of earnings per share and then they beat that, there's a good chance that that will cause the stock to jump up as well. And if they miss that, then that could cause the stock to go down. But at the same time, that's even a little off too. I've noticed sometimes a company will report an earnings beat and it will still go down, maybe because the CEO, when he was on the audio call, giving a forecast for the year, it sounded kind of like muddy, like he wasn't sure, like, because, for example, the chip shortage, like with, not to like jump off of AMC, but just for like a quick second, like Ford, for example, has been affected by the chip shortage. And so even though, hey, their numbers were good, they reported, oh, we're not sure if we're going to be producing so much because of, outside factors like that. And so then the stock still went down, even though the numbers were good. So that's something else that can affect the thing. But back to AMC.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think if this, Redditor group, this Wall Street Bets group, can band together and they can, pump the stock price up, good for them. And a lot of people can make money. Bad for the hedge funds, sure. But, none of them are them. None of these Wall Street Bets people are, the hedge funds. Hedge funds have a lot of money and they're smart enough. They have experience enough that they know what's going to there. They already saw earlier this year what happened with GameStop. So they know they've already been hurt. They've already been severely wounded, let's say, or at least, had like a little chunk out of their chocolate cake taken out, not that it's going to ruin them because, hey, they have several more chunks of the chocolate cake. Let's just say they got plenty of cake.
Right.
But, they could learn from that so that they don't get, another chunk out of their new carrot cake taken out as well. So I think it's fine.
But then it is weird, though, that they would do this again, though, and so shortly after the last time it happened.
Well, if they can make it happen, why not? Good for you, right? You've got AMC stock. Good for me. Good for all us. We can just, what do? We ride the wave. We're just going to watch it go up, maybe buy some more shares if we see it's going to keep going up. And hey, let the little guys, not rich guys make some money and have some more comfort, especially when we live in an expensive state like California. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, I just became I won one of the Dogecoin lotteries, and I still can't afford a house here. So, yeah. But it's kind of funny because when this happens, of course, the hedge fund guys say, "Well, that's market manipulation because they're all getting together and buying the." It's like, well, I don't think it's technically market manipulation that way, because if it is market manipulation to talk about the stocks and talk about buying stocks and say in a public forum and say, hey, let's buy a bunch of stocks because this could do really well, and they say that's illegal, it's like, well, then what about Market Watch? Does Jim Cramer have a job after that? Because these are organizations that basically analyze the stock market and they say, okay, this looks like a safe investment and this looks like a bad investment. And under all the articles, it's funny, they always put like, we hold no positions in this company, but it's been discovered many, many times that, yeah, they do, through a family member or through an LLC that they partially own. A lot of these writers do have shares in the very stocks and companies they talk about. Is all of this going to all of a sudden be illegal? I don't think so. So, you know what? If the hedge funds want to talk in the trades about what's a good investment and a bad investment, all while either buying investments or shorting companies, then I think it's okay if Redditors say, hey, let's all buy a bunch of stock. Why not? We like AMC. We don't want them to go away. let's rally to save them, which I will say it is also interesting, and maybe we should definitely clarify those. Just because you buy AMC stock does not necessarily mean doesn't mean you're saving the company. Sure, buy it if you want to help stick it to the hedge fund guys. But if you really want to support AMC, also subscribe to an AMC Stubs A-list subscription while you're at it, or buy a tub of popcorn when you see a movie like that. That's really how you're going to save AMC.
Yeah, I'm an A-lister myself.
One of the best things to happen to movie lovers ever. I love that thing. It gets so much use out of mine. Now, question, if you don't want to say, you don't have to, but do you have a substantial amount of stock in AMC?
No, not substantial. I wouldn't call it substantial because, well, I guess it depends on how much money a person has, but no, I would not call it substantial. It's not even like not even 10% of my.
Well, is it like?
I don't.
Well, is it double digits, triple digits in number of shares?
It's triple. Yes, it is triple.
It's triple. Okay, because I'm triple too, and it did not take up more than 2% of my portfolio. At least it didn't take up more than 2% until this morning. This morning, it's taking up quite a bit more of my portfolio. And people said I was in a good way. Well, it's kind of in a mixed way though, because I mean, it's funny. You definitely do like to see when companies start going higher and higher. I do get a little uneasy once that holding goes from like a single digit to double digits. Then it's kind of like, oh, well, now if this stock changes a few dollars, it affects a huge portion of the portfolio. And I'm getting pretty close to that now. So anyway, I'm going to personally, and this is not financial advice for the record, folks. This is not financial advice. But I am going to personally hold until just before the short options that the hedge funds have on AMC expire. Because the thing is, once the options expire and it's basically time for the chickens to come home to roost for the short sellers, the stock will go down. That's it happens all the time. That's the whole point of a short squeeze. Once the damage has been done, most people, it's time for them to like sell their own stocks and collect their winnings, so to speak. So that's also a little bit of a cautionary tale for those of you who want to like put $1,000 or $2,000 into this, hoping it'll get like $150 a share. You just don't know when the squeeze is going to end and when it's going to come right back down to earth. So,
but
anyway, any final
viewer? I was just going to say for your viewers, and I mean, a lot of them probably know, but maybe you might have some new ones who don't. How does one find out when those stock options expire? How can they look into that?
Honestly, the easiest way right now is to subscribe, check out Wall Street Bets on Reddit, because I mean, there are official sources that you can find, but they share those sources on Wall Street Bets. Also, you can kind of keep an eye on Twitter. If you ever see Hold the Line trending, that's basically a bunch of these stock traders basically signaling that the options are about to expire. So hold the line. Like, don't jump out before they actually get hurt. Like, you hold that line and you hurt them as much as you can. So those are the two easiest ways to find out. So, I love how Noah says those analysts are all hired to pump stocks too. Yep, I know. They claim it's not fair, and it's like, no, from what I understand, it's totally fair right now. It's totally fair right now. But anyway, folks, what about all of you? What do you think of AMC and this crazy stock ride? Do you have AMC stock? Are you going to buy AMC stock? What do you think of it? We'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe, and flame responsibly. All right. As we take a moment to parse our lips, let us talk about main topic number 2. And before we start main topic number 2, are you a Twitter user?
Yes. I have a couple accounts, but I'm not a consistent tweeter.
Yeah. Well, I unfortunately, I'm probably on Twitter too much now, and now I'm arguing with like some pretty dumb people, which reminds me why I'm not on Twitter that much anymore, or why I stopped for a while. Actually, the conversation got so bad today between someone that I actually was like, why am I even having my account activated? It's like, oh yeah, PS5 drops. That's why I'm on Twitter right now. Best way to find out whether the PS5 is still in stock so I can buy it and scalp it. Feel free to dislike if you want, but I'm saving for a house. But one of the appeals to Twitter, I think, is basically that it's free. If you stop and think about it, we all want a voice, and every time there's a new platform that lets you sign up for free and you can kind of share your thoughts and opinions, that always ends up being big. LiveJournal, oh, I can write a journal, but now it's public. And there you go. Then you have Facebook and MySpace. And Twitter was probably in some ways the most ingenious one. You could just put quick little thoughts out there as tweets, and anyone could sign up. But the one thing that has not really happened with social media is so far no one's really been charging for social media. No one charges for social media unless you want to advertise on social media or you want to create like a store, nothing like that. Well, Twitter is going to break new grounds because they have actually are introducing a paid subscription service, Twitter Blue. It's going to cost $3 a month. So let's look at this little article from Engadget. It appears Twitter may have unintentionally confirmed its plans for a subscription service. A $2.99 month in-app purchase for Twitter Blue, which I'm kind of surprised they're calling it Twitter Blue. This is just a side note. Twitter's already blue. Why don't you call it Twitter Gold or something like that? I don't know. Was added to the company's App Store listing, though the feature doesn't seem to be fully enabled yet. The update was spotted by app researcher Jane Manchin Wong, who has previously uncovered details about Twitter Blue. According to images shared by Wong, the service includes an undo tweet feature, which I don't know if that's actually going to help, but we'll talk about that in a minute, as well as a reader mode that makes it easier to view long threads. It also adds additional customization options like new app icons. Twitter executives had previously spoken about creating features specifically for paid subscribers, but the company hasn't offered many details on pricing or what features may be included. And these are some, you can't, that opens a new window, so I can't open that, I guess. But these are some of the features that are going to be on it. Apparently, you can customize your app icon. You have some feature settings here, reader mode, collections, all that jazz. So, first of all, let's make something abundantly clear. Twitter is not going to all of a sudden force everyone to start paying $3 a month for their service. It's just not going to happen. But I think this might be a way where Twitter is slowly going to start moving to a subscription-based model. And I personally see a lot of pros to Twitter being a paid-for service. I think that would reduce the amount of dummy accounts, because now to have a bunch of dummy accounts, it's going to cost money. I think it holds people who are abusive and toxic and spread bad information, maybe even deliberately so. It makes it much easier to track them down and maybe persecute them if, for example, they say dox you on the website and get it trending. And then maybe you can actually easily trace who started that information and put your life in danger. Maybe. Also, maybe it'll get rid of a lot of just the freeloaders, the people who are not using Twitter as an actual tool for their job. They're just doing it to spout anti-mask stuff or whatever you want. Maybe talk about Pizzagate. But then also, so I don't know, those are some of the few good things I can think of. What do you think about this? And can you think of some pros and cons of yourself for actually paying for Twitter? And would you pay for Twitter?
I don't think I would, honestly, because I don't use it that much. Paying for social media would sure be kind of a big thing. I mean, there's a reason why, Facebook has grown to the status that it has. It's because it's always been free. Anybody can have it. And it's got, millions, billions of users, I'm sure now. Worldwide, it's so accessible, very usable by pretty much anybody. And then you've got, Instagram, of course, which has grown. quite a bit as well, owned by Facebook, as many of us know. It's difficult, I think, to want to pay for it unless maybe you're already making money off of it. I mean, if you're already monetizing your Instagram account, like maybe you're one of those really hot Instagram model girls who's like 19, 20 and, you know, posts like a photo, you know, outside or, you know, in some outfit like every day. And you've got like, you know, 1 million followers or 500,000 followers. You'd probably make money off of your account. You know, I'm sure a lot of those ladies are, whether it's from, you know, just people clicking on their, you know, little maybe ads that they have in their Instagram stories and going to the website, or just from people sponsor them, say, hey, if you, you know, post something, if you post yourself wearing this outfit, our new, you know, fashion accessory line, and you tag us, we'll give you, you know, $1,000 if you keep it for a week. I mean, yeah, I mean, if somebody like that, maybe who's making money off of Twitter somehow could possibly see it worthwhile because they want to keep that revenue source going. They want to keep their account going because they're, you know, they've monetized it. Yeah, what's $3 a month to them? I mean, that's nothing, you know, if they're making good money off of it. Somebody who just kind of uses it here and there, or to spout off, like you said, maybe racist comments or anti-religious comments, or maybe just to be a Karen. Yeah, it might be good to weed those people out. People like that are just really annoying. But someone like myself who will maybe just like post a thought here and there, or will share something really like interesting or a funny article, or maybe post, hey, here's a link to my new video. I don't think I use it enough to the point where it would make sense to pay for it. So I think it depends on, you know, how much the person uses it and what they use it for.
You know, I could envision a future for Twitter where anyone can read Twitter for free. But if you want to tweet out itself, then you pay for it. And really, when you talk about $3 a month, you're talking about $36 a year. I mean, I think most people can afford that. And it's just whether or not it's worth anything to them to do it. But I could see a scenario where basically people can just read Twitter, and at that point Twitter becomes like even more of a promotional platform because anyone can look at those tweets. But if you want to actually engage with those tweets, then you have to pay for it. I think the one funny feature that they've got on this thing that I don't know if that's actually going to do anything is the undo tweet feature, because I thought there already was an undo tweet feature. It was called you delete the tweet. And does it really matter? Yeah. Because one of the biggest problems with Twitter, and this is a problem, is like when someone says something stupid, for lack of a better word, and they have a lapse of judgment, and we've all had a lapse of judgment on Twitter. That's what makes it so scary. It's like one of the first things people do is they screen capture that tweet, and they screen capture it so that basically if you decide to delete that tweet, they can share it with Twitter for all of eternity. And I don't think an undo tweet feature is in and of itself worth paying for.
No, because it's not going to stop that. I mean, if somebody screenshots it and uploads it, you know, on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I mean, that's on the internet forever. It's stuck. What you said, people are going to know it for, you know, the rest of your life, unfortunately. You know?
Yep. Nope. I've been there. I said a couple stupid things once in a while. Someone comes in like, hey, didn't you do this one time? It's like, yeah, I did that 7 years ago. Like, move on. But that's the internet. So, but I think that if Twitter wants to move forward, because I think out of all the companies, Twitter kind of has that reputation for being the least good for society, because major decisions are made based on what's trending on Twitter, which is actually kind of dangerous because Twitter does not have anywhere near enough users to justify real world consequences for what happens there. It's its own little bubble. So I could easily see like, okay, look, you want to tweet, you got to pay to tweet. And once you're paying to tweet, you know, it makes it so that, you know, you can't be anonymous anymore. There has to be you have to be held accountable. If you start a rumor and it ends up spreading like crazy, you're partially responsible for that now. So I think Twitter's in a very interesting position, and the real reason they're doing that is because I think their reputation is just getting really sour at this point. We all know Twitter is not a place where decent people go to have arguments. I mean, it is almost impossible to have a civil argument on Twitter. And how many things have trended where regular people have been doxxed and harassed over things that they supposedly did that just a little bit later people found out they really didn't do. So I remember that one time that Roseanne Barr, before her ABC tweet fiasco, and she was told to stay off Twitter for reasons like this. During the George Zimmerman trial, she tweeted out the addresses and phone numbers to George Zimmerman's parents. And, well, that information spread pretty quickly. And look, I know not everyone's happy with that, with the verdict on that one. I myself have mixed feelings about the verdict, but it's like, don't do that. Don't do things like that. But that's where things like that happen. And I'm wondering if this is like a way for Twitter to try to control that somehow. I don't know. Am I just talking too much, or do you think I might be onto something?
You could be, you could be onto something. It's possible that could. I mean, I guess we won't know until they finally try it out. They'll probably have to do some kind of like a beta version of Twitter Blue and see how it goes, like a test run, because it may help to skid some of that activity and people, spitting out, that type of rhetoric. If there could be easier to track them down and shut them down, or, face, criminal consequences, it may weed some of that out. But then again, I mean, I'm wondering, you might be a little bit more knowledgeable about this than I am, but I would guess maybe if they used a VPN, then they could still, spit, out whatever they want, and it couldn't be tracked to them, or it'd be harder, I guess, to figure out where it's coming from, but still possible, I think.
It would be harder. I mean, it's not, because some people are pretty dedicated to that, but what it would also show is if like something got trending because of, let's say, a few hundred accounts. Like, and let's just assume that Russia propaganda is like a thing, and it probably is. But you get like a bunch of bots that are spewing Russia propaganda, and it gets it trending on Twitter. It's like they can say, okay, so where did this start? Okay, it started with these accounts, and all these accounts are being paid for by one person or one company. Well, that's a little weird, isn't it? So now maybe we can, at the very least, suspend those accounts until we find out, okay, who are you, and why are you paying for all of these different Twitter Blue accounts to be spreading this story? I don't know. I think like bigger picture, this isn't about giving new features, because like, a read-only feature, no one cares. Undo tweet option, useless. But as a way to control and monitor maybe people that are giving the site the reputation it has, kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Somebody commented. You have a commenter here. Low roller scratcher. YouTube already put ads on, even if you have less than 1,000. Yeah, I got an email about that. Their updated terms of service, that like, even if you don't have the lucky 1,000 and 4,000 hours of watch time, that they might still throw some ads on your channel, which is very interesting.
Well, that's old news. That actually happened a while ago, and I think the only difference now is that I think people started pointing out, like, hey, wait a minute, are we getting paid for that? And YouTube was kind of like, hold on, like, yes, you will get paid for that if that happens. I think that's what's going on. But yeah, like, YouTube's been putting ads on people with less than 1,000 subscribers for months now. But anyway, so Okay, I guess the final thing I'll say about this Twitter blue thing. Again, why is it Twitter blue? Twitter's already blue. Like, wouldn't Twitter gold just make so much more sense? Like, this kind of almost... Yeah, this kind of almost feels like the whole Wii U thing. Like, oh, I recommend you get a Wii U. It's like, well, I already have a Wii. Why would I want another one? It's like, it's a, sometimes you really do need to differentiate yourself between the old other product, or else people just get confused. So anyway, folks, the question is, what do you think? Would you personally pay for Twitter Blue? Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. All right, so we've been talking for quite a while. How much more time do you have? I want to be sensitive to your time. Like, do you have another 20 minutes or 30?
I'm pretty flexible. I'm not gonna go out, and I'm not driving tonight. So usually if I'm gonna drive, I start around 5 o'clock, but I'm not doing that. So we got time. I'll give a shout out to let's give a shout out to Noah's Navigating New York, who just commented. That's interesting. I could see people paying to comment on and retweet other tweets. Thank you for joining us here today.
Right, because yes, we like Noah's channel and we like Noah, and especially if they eventually put the comment and the retweet behind a paywall, that does have value to some people. So, all right, well then, we've got a few more topics today, so let's get to I think this is the third topic. This is the third topic, and we're talking about my favorite company, Amazon. Actually, it's probably we're talking more about Jeff Bezos in this particular situation. So, Amazon wants to go to space because everybody wants to go to space. It actually kind of feels like the 50s again. Like there's a new space race to get to Mars. Whoever gets to Mars first, I guess they're the winners. Elon Musk wants to go to space, and Jeff Bezos wants to go to space. Richard Branson, of which I want to be fully upfront about, I do own stock in his Virgin Galactic company. He wants to go to space too. Well, Amazon wanted a contract with NASA to go to space. And because NASA was going to be giving out a $10 billion contract to team with a company to help with space exploration. And this makes sense because some of these companies are actually doing space travel way better than NASA is right now. But Amazon lost that bid. And Amazon, for lack of a better word, are big babies when it comes to losing things. Several months ago, maybe even a year ago at this point, Amazon bid on the Jedi contract with the Pentagon, and they thought for sure they were going to get it, but they didn't get it, and Microsoft got it, and as a result, they sued the government. And I think that thing is still caught up in legislation right now, to the point where the contract might even be canceled because it's being delayed to the point where they might not even need it anymore, which, if that happens, if I were Microsoft, I'd sue Amazon for tortious interference, but we won't go there. Well, Amazon did not get this NASA contract, and yet, for some reason, and I cannot actually fathom why this is going on, the Senate is actually preparing to give them $10 billion anyway, just because they didn't get the contract. So this comes from The Intercept. Now that Jeff Bezos' space flight company Blue Origin has lost a multi-billion-dollar contract to Elon Musk's SpaceX, one of the other reasons Elon Musk is going to become the richest man in the world at one point, Congress is prepping the ground for Bezos to win a contract anyway, ordering NASA to make not one, but 2 awards. The order would come through the Endless Frontier Act, a bill to beef up resources for science and technology research that's being debated on the Senate floor this week. An amendment was added to that legislation by Senator Maria Cantwell, not Republican, Democrat from Washington, to hand over $10 billion to NASA money that would most likely go to Blue Origin, a company that's headquartered in Cantwell's home state. Because for those of you who are not aware, Washington bends over backwards for Amazon. Cantwell's amendment is no sure bet, though, because Senator Bernie Sanders, who I have been critical of before, I am very glad Bernie Sanders is not our president. However, I happen to agree with him in this case. He introduced a last-minute amendment Monday to eliminate the $10 billion, and I'm going to try to do my best Bernie Sanders impression, folks. So feel free to laugh if this is awful, where it says, "It does not make a lot of sense to me that we would provide billions of dollars to a company owned by the wealthiest guy in America," Sanders told The Intercept Tuesday. So that's basically the long and short of it. NASA was supposed to give out a $10 billion award to a company that would help with space exploration. They chose Elon Musk's SpaceX. But because Jeff Bezos didn't like that, he gave a call. Well, this is speculative, of course, but he gave a call to a senator from Washington to include an amendment that said he would get $10 billion anyway. Which, talk about market manipulation. So, Jose, thoughts on this little
Okay, that's nothing.
interesting thing?
I mean, 10 billion, that's nothing. That's like a little drop in the bucket. I mean, big deal.
Oh, yeah. 10 billion.
Yeah.
I wish they would send some of that not big deal our way.
Yeah, exactly. I just slip $1 billion in my right pocket and maybe put another 2 into my Grubhub bag right here. I won't tell anybody, I promise. Yeah, it's crazy, but you know what? It's like there's 2 ways you can approach it mentally, you know, as far as how you think about it and how you let it affect you. Does it make sense? Is it something necessary? No. You know, is it something that we already know happens and will probably, at least for the foreseeable future, always be this way? Yes. That the rich get richer. Yes. People who are wealthy, you know, they tend to receive, you know, more help and bailouts and assistance so that they can, you know, become more wealthy. The rich get richer, and then the people who are struggling, they don't receive help. Is it ethical? Is it logical? Is it reasonable? Probably not. We can be upset about it. We can be hurt about it, be stressed out about it, and be in a bad mood about it. Guess what? That's not going to change it. It's only going to affect our own health negatively. Or we can just be like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way the world works. On to, you know, my thing. I'm going to go spend, you know, an hour watching a Netflix K-drama so that I can work on my Korean. Or I'm going to look at the cryptocurrency Ethereum and see where that's at right now. Do I want to buy a few shares? Does it look like it's going to go up tonight? I'm going to go for a run, you know, just focus on you, you know, because you can't control it. This is just something, not to get, you know, like philosophical or anything, but like I learned a while ago, you know, to not worry about what you can't control, just focus on what you can, because why get all flustered and pissed off about something that's not going to change, and, you know, and that you can't do anything about, and let it, you know, put you in a bad mood if it has nothing to do with you ultimately, you know, just do what you can. So I think that it is what it is, really. It's crazy, but that's just the way that the world is, because these big companies have an effect. I think one of the reasons, you know, for anybody that hasn't figured it out, but I'm sure a lot of people have, that, you know, rich people get richer. It's because rich people have influence. And so the government or whoever, you know, wants to hand them money, also part of their own agenda, because they have influence. They can do things. Yes, they don't need the money, but because they have power over all these people, or, you know, they can affect people and get people to do things. Oh, here's some money because this is what we want to be done. You know, somebody with, you know, not much influence, who only has 200 followers on Twitter, or, you know, 100 Instagram followers. Yeah, you know, they could use the $10 billion because they don't have it, you know, they need the money. But they're not going to, what can they do with it? Do they know what to do with $10 billion? Are they going to put it to as good of use as somebody who already has a big chunk of money and knows what to do with it and knows how to, has grown a business like Amazon in this, mega powerhouse. So yeah, it's maybe not right, but it kind of like makes sense. It's ultimately about business. It's all about business, Kevin. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, and maybe the business here, the only logic I can think of is, again, this kind of must go back to the Jedi contract, where when Amazon did not get their way, they sued the government. I think that's still going on. I could be wrong, but I think that's still going on. And there was, at one point, discussions, maybe we should just cancel the whole thing, because now that this has been dragged out so long, we don't even need the Jedi contract anymore. We don't even need it. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe someone looked at this and they say, hey, look, we are way more impressed with Elon Musk's SpaceX program. Way more impressed with it. Yeah, the guy was a little schizo on Saturday Night Live, but you know what? His technology, can't argue with that. But if we make that announcement, do we really want to be held back on actually executing that plan because Jeff Bezos is going to throw a hissy fit? Why don't we just give him his $10 billion? He'll go home to his super yacht, which is apparently a thing. It's a yacht so big, there's a yacht in the yacht. The world of the super yachts, I've discovered this recently. It's really fascinating, actually. Let's just give him a $10 billion payout so that we can basically move on with our lives once we make the announcement. That to me is the only thing about this that makes any sort of sense. And yeah, when you're spending $6 trillion to fix the roads, I guess 10 billion is really nothing at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Trillion.
So maybe
that's the real effect. The trillions, used to send us stimulus checks. Okay, that's a lot of money. 10 billion. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But I don't know. That's kind of my suspicion about that. But the question is, for all of you, what do you think? I mean, you're right. I mean, maybe there is really no reason to get upset about this. We'll get upset at the next stories because that actually does affect people like you and me. Well, what do you think about this? Do you think the government should be doing this? We'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and all that good jazz. So now, let's talk about something that we both have a lot of experience on: rideshare. Gotta ask, you still doing Uber and Lyft?
Negatory. No, I haven't given a ride in at least a couple years, probably more. Yeah. I was still doing it a little bit when I started food delivery, but then once I saw how much more for less miles driven and how many more tips I got doing food delivery, that was a big factor, a big turning point in realizing, no, it's not worth it. I mean, Uber and Lyft, that the pay just got worse and worse and worse, pay per mile and then gas. And then I got in a fist fight. I had arguments with customers.
You got into a fist fight. Maybe you should tell us that story sometime. Not now, but sometime.
I've had some fun adventures too. But it's just like I've dated girls that I've given rides to. But those were just few and far between. Every once in a while, something crazy like that would happen. It just wasn't worth the from time to time lottery reward against all the negatives to make it worth it, when I could drive very fewer miles, get paid more money, and people tip when you give them food. So no, I'm not still doing that. It's been a minute, and I don't regret it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people feel the exact same way as you do. In fact, ever since the pandemic and ever since Uber and Lyft broke their promises about better wages and having all this flexibility to drivers once Prop 22 passed, which I totally saw coming, by the way, people have not been returning to Uber and Lyft. For that matter, as a result of that, Uber and Lyft customers are finding themselves very, very pissed, because what happens when drivers don't get on the road? Well, few things happen. One, you don't get your ride as fast. Second, you might not get a quality driver if all the quality ones decided they didn't want to come back. And third, you're going to be paying a lot of money for those rides. And this has put Uber and Lyft in such a conundrum, because they tried so hard to fix it. And the usual spiel about how this worked is when Uber and Lyft needed drivers on the road, like yesterday, they would give out some BS promotion. Hey, you take 10 rides, we'll give you an extra $25, something like that. Well, those didn't work. Then they decided, okay, hey, look, if you give 10 rides, we'll give you $100. No, that didn't work. They said, okay, look, we're going to commit $300 million as a Uber driver stimulus. You will get bonuses. You will get extra money per mile. Didn't work. It even got to the point where my wife got an email. You can almost hear them begging, like, please, if you take 3 rides, we will give you $100, which, even I was kind of like, honey, you can knock that out in like an hour or so. That's a nice little payoff, don't you think? And she was like, no, don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. So all it's doing is it's causing the prices to go up and the stock to go down, and the quality of Uber and Lyft to kind of take a nosedive. And here's the reason I wanted to bring this up. This isn't necessarily surprising, except for the fact that it kind of is, because you and I think, have both been to protests, whether because we actually at the time believed the protests would do some good, or maybe we just wanted to report when drivers would get together and say Uber and Lyft need to pay them more money, and if they didn't, they were going to hurt them. And I always made a point when I did those interviews, I would always make it a point to ask, so are you going to stop driving for Uber for the indefinite future? And at all those protests, with rare exceptions, they'd be like, oh no, I'll be back on the road this evening, which in my opinion meant the whole thing was pointless, because you didn't prove anything at that point. You just made it surge for a couple hours. Yeah, but now we're actually... Sorry?
I said that's where you and I met. We met at an Uber strike.
Yes, we did. We met at a Uber strike. It was at LAX, right? Yeah, I do remember that. That was back when people recognized me at those things. I don't know if that would happen anymore, but anyway, what's really I find funny about this right now is that basically because the drivers have just had enough. They've heard Uber's BS promises. They don't believe them. The extra money is not enough to get them away from either their new career path or their search for a new career path. And it's putting Uber and Lyft in an awkward position where the only way to get people back permanently is to permanently raise the rates, which they clearly don't want to do. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because, when you see those articles and you see that basically drivers are doing what we told them would work, like, hey, stop driving for Uber, don't come back to Uber, and Uber will feel it. Now they're feeling it, but at this point, it might be too late to even change anything. So I don't know. What do you think of all that?
I don't see a sudden surge and return in people going back to it unless they really want to pay a lot more. I mean, that's the reason why I stopped doing it. Was the top reason was just the pay. They just started paying less and less, and they're like, hey, we're actually not going to pay you. We're not going to take 20% anymore. Now we're going to take 25%. And
then it could be up to 50%.
right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Now, I've seen some screenshots of like some people, some real, serious gouging there, where they've, really like charged the customer maybe like $90, from the airport to go home, and they've kept up to. I've seen, screenshots of up to like 60, maybe 70%, and then they paid. They showed the driver, oh, you're getting this much, maybe like $20, and they don't even know that the passenger got charged freaking $90 or something crazy like that. There's definitely been some of that from both Uber and Lyft, and it's, people are aware of it. At least I think a lot of people are. I've mentioned it in videos. I know the person that you mentioned from Chicago has definitely mentioned it in videos at some point on his channel. Yeah, it's out there. The information is out there that they've done stuff like this. They're very evil, and hopefully drivers are, or people who are thinking about becoming drivers are becoming more woke about this.
Yeah, and woke is not being used as an ugly term this time. This is like they're literally waking up to like, wait, I'm getting paid how much? And Uber took what? That's the kind of woke we're talking about when you just realize you're getting abundantly screwed in this department.
Yes, I'm not talking about like the woke is in like culturally woke as far as races and like sexual orientation and all of these new genders that exist in these pronouns. Yeah, I don't mean that. No, I wasn't talking about that. I mean just like, yeah, being privy to what's going on as far as, what Uber and Lyft do, and people who have been doing it a while or who are ex-drivers, former, Uber, Lyft drivers like you and myself. We already aware of it, but they do it by getting new people. They send out like those flyers. They'll send it like an email. Hey, sign up now, become a Lyft, become a driver, and you'll get this bonus. And somebody who's never done it before and who's, just like itching for cash, maybe they lost their job. This was even before the pandemic. Somebody would lose their job. Oh, okay, yeah, I need to make money. And they would start doing it. And then eventually, they started doing it full time. And those were the people who, by the way, not to like veer off topic too much, but yeah, those are the types of people who were wanting to like, were going for AB5 and wanting to vote no on Prop 2 News because they wanted to turn it into a job because they lost their previous job. But
right.
Yeah, a lot of people who have not driven before, yeah, they don't know. They fall into it, and that's why there's such a high turnover rate. They'll send those guarantees, those bonuses, sign up, do your first whatever rides and you get this much. And so, yeah, if they can get some new people that way, great. But eventually, I mean, I think, I would guess they'll run out of new people to, suck into their little game. And then after, 6 months, they realize how much it sucks. And, oh, this is what I'm making now. That's not very good. So I don't see it. I don't see it all of a sudden getting a bunch of people.
Yeah, it's actually funny that you mentioned when people realize, because my second wave of popularity came, and this is why I tell people, you don't necessarily need to have the fanciest editing in videos. You just have to have something really important to show and say. I had gotten a screenshot, someone emailed it to me, where they had done a ride that was like $112. And of that ride, they got 20. And Uber took more than $80. And I put the screenshot up. I did an audio voiceover, and everybody picked it up. That video got hundreds of thousands of views, and it was like, there was a part of me that was kind of believing my own hype that, oh, geez, people will see this and they'll go like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, this is not what I want. And it didn't really happen. Some people left, but then new people came along, and it didn't really change anything. But now the pandemic has come along, and probably financially, because here's one of the reasons I think they're having a hard time luring people back, even with bonuses, aside from the fact that the horror stories are all out there. But I think it's because the pandemic has so decimated people's financial situation that even a bonus, they look at that bonus and they're like, yeah, it's just not enough. It's not enough. We can't, especially with rising gas prices. I mean, we can't justify that. So that's what I think might be going on with that I'm personally having fun just finally, because I always said, look, Uber is going to eventually run out of people to convince to buy into this nonsense. And I'm wondering if we're actually at that point where they've burned through most of their people, and now the vast majority of people see Uber for what it really is. And it's like, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. Like, it's not even, the bonus isn't even worth it anymore. Like, you have to substantially pay me better.
Yeah, I like what rideshare source driver commented here. I once declined over 200 trips from 505 to 550 on Lyft, and I got a $5 power zone. And then, and then he also said, imagine full airport lot, 200, 300 cars, and all available and declining. That's the way to go. That would be pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, I think that was one of the things that was suggested for the protests. Like, I know there was like a tentative plan to sit in the parking lots and accept rides, but don't actually drive people anywhere. Like, you accept the rides and you just sit there, and you would basically monopolize the parking lot. And then at one point, even customers figured out what's going on. They're like, hey, look, we'll give you a $50 tip if you'll come pick us up. And apparently that was the price to break the strike, because it's like, oh, $50? Well, sure, on our way. And so, yeah. But, here's the thing. In a world where McDonald's is offering like free iPhones because they can't find workers, and actually the McDonald's near me is paying people $19 an hour. They're so desperate, they're actually paying $19 an hour. It's one of those situations where you kind of go like, oh, so you can afford $15 an hour. Heck, you can afford $4 more than $15 an hour. You know what I'm saying? But in a world of that, I am not terribly surprised at all that Uber's lack of caring and their arrogance finally caught up with them. The fact is, people are fully aware that Uber will not take care of them in the long run. They are fully aware at this point that, yeah, there's some nice bonuses now, but you know what? Once they don't need you anymore, those bonuses will go away. You might even be deactivated again. It's just best to put your energy in another career altogether. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, and they've got an uphill battle. They like I said, they would have to pay more, but the problem is what's going on with Lyft and Uber now. Now they're public, and so now they're trying to turn a profit to make the shareholders happy. So now it's even harder for them to be able to satisfy drivers because they want to satisfy the shareholders.
Right. Although in London they recently did finally, probably because they were forced to, they finally acknowledged the Uber union in London. And that's going to be a very interesting test case, because here's the thing. Most taxi companies are profitable. They're not extremely profitable, but they are profitable. There's like a nice, and you can eke out a little profit. And the question is, it's like, will that profit be enough for Uber? And does Uber become special once they become another taxi service? Because the taxi companies themselves, they've got their own apps now. And if you need to have like the license and everything like that, if you have to pay them like employees, maybe they really are no different from the regular taxi drivers. Maybe at that point, Uber needs to actually consider making their app more of a hub, and they just take a percentage of the ride, like a small one. I don't know. It's going to be very, very fascinating to see what happens with this situation. Do you have any final thoughts on what you think is going to happen, or just kind of taking the wait and see approach?
I honestly don't care. That's where I'm at with that.
But you're a driver, man. You still, I know. I'm having a hard time. I still like to comment on Uber as a company, but I don't comment on the driver's rights anymore. The reason we're talking about it now is because there's just a huge part of me that's like, where was this 3 years ago when it actually mattered? I mean, I guess it kind of matters now. I mean, now that Uber's a public company, you can certainly hurt their stock or something like that. But I mean, boy, should have gotten on this a lot sooner, in my opinion. Anyway, folks, what about all of you? You know the question. Still drive for Uber? You gonna? What bonuses did you got? We'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And at about 80 minutes, I think that's a good place. We had one more topic, but you know what? I think that's a good place to just stop. What about you?
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you've reached your limit, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of like, dinner's coming up. It's Friday night. I'm sure we want to play some games, or, I think Hooters is reopened again. So don't tell my wife. don't tell my wife.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Actually, fun story.
Do not tell Kevin's wife. All right. They got good beer specials sometimes.
Oh, okay. Fun fact: I've actually never been to Hooters before. Just never been to Hooters. It's I don't know. Never thought about it. I'm not really a hot wings guy, to be honest. So, there you go. I actually, my favorite place to eat is Naples in downtown Disney. Best pizza ever, in my opinion. I don't know. Where do you like to patronage when you want to dine out? This might be a fun random fact.
I love Chinese food. I've shared this on my channel before. One of my favorite dishes is shrimp fried rice. I'm a sucker for shrimp fried rice, so I tend to order that more often than I should. And the reason why I say more often than I should is because the downside to it is, man, Chinese food has a lot of salt. That's the only part that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. That's yeah. No. But Chinese food is so good. It's so good. Anyway, so since it's been a while, since you've been on the show, why don't you tell our viewers what you've been up to in the last several months, and then we'll call that a day.
Sure. Well, obviously not YouTubing as much. I've been a little lazy, if you want to call it that, or just busy, depending on how you want to look at it. I haven't been posting nearly as much content as I used to. In fact, I think it's been at least a month since the last video that I posted on my channel. So not YouTubing, that's for sure. I've really been more focused on trying to take my Korean to the next level. I'm still not quite fluent yet. And so it's been like, okay, there's something extra that I need to do, or something that I need to do differently or do more of. Let me take a look at why I'm still not there yet. And I really want to get there because, people who have been watching me for a long time know that I do love languages and cultures, and I love to travel. I travel a lot. I miss traveling since the pandemic began. My last big trip of 2019. So I've been focusing on that, and I know I'm going to be fluent probably within the next couple months here, because I'm actually trying some new things, and I had to take some time away to kind of focus on, okay, what can I do differently, and looking into learning from polyglots, like, hey, what did you do? What are the most effective ways of learning? And so I've been more focused on that. I've been focused on the investing. So I've learned a lot about like the stock market. I've taken actual courses over the last several months on investing in stocks, and have also learned by trial and error. So there's that. I've been exercising a lot more, which I'm happy to say I'm in better shape than I've probably been in a number of years as well. I'm working on the 6-pack. It's almost there. It's not quite there, but it's getting there. So that's the other thing that I've been working on, and just getting more organized. I've gotten my room extremely organized. I threw away a lot of stuff. I went through a lot of things, threw away a lot of junk, took back some boxes from a friend who was holding like some extra boxes that I didn't have room for. I had room for them, so I took them back. And now I even still have extra room because I just threw away some of that stuff as well. So I've gotten more organized, more clean, and
you Marie Kondoed your life.
Huh?
You Marie Kondoed your life.
There you go. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I've definitely done some of that. Yeah, Marie Kondo, very she's the guru of organizing from Japan. Yes, I've never like watched her show, but I've read some of her techniques, and I'm sure there's some of that I've incorporated either consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah. So anyway, someone dropped a question, but we're not going to answer it now because I actually think this might be a good question for next week's podcast. Scotty says that people investing on crypto are betting against county currency. What do you think? That's an excellent question, Rideshare Source Driver, and we will be back next week with a guest. Might be Driver Man, might not be. I haven't decided yet. And we will discuss this very topic, partly because I also want to do a little bit more research because I think that's actually a very fascinating question to be asking. But anyway, thank you for joining me. We will have to do this again. This is a lot of fun, obviously. And as for everyone else, check out Driver Man's channel and, hit that subscribe button, that like button, leave the comments, share the video. And I swear we're working on getting this on Spotify and iTunes. This was a little bit, we kind of ran into a little bit of a hiccup. And I don't want to get into what that is. It was kind of a weird one though. But once that hiccup is worked out, we'll be on all the audio podcast channels. So anyway, take care, everyone. Happy Friday.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
You're welcome.